This man cannot remain in power.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Huawei and how Huawei has been doing. And I saw this article today, and also obviously, as you know, the financial report has come out recently, and you had Meng Wanzhou as well speaking about the company and how it's doing. So let me start off with the financial information. You can see 2021 figures. The revenue has declined to 636.8 billion won, and if I show you the revenues for the past 10 years or so, you can see that that revenue is between 2017 and 2018, so it's between those 2 years. The year when 2019, that's when they were one of the biggest smartphone companies in the world, and that's when they were hit by sanctions by Trump around 2018, 2019. So they still had very good revenue over the next few years, mainly down to them having a lot of chips that they ordered from TSMC before the sanctions hit. So they had a huge amounts of chips. Unfortunately, these chips have been running out recently. So this is why their smartphone business has been in decline. However, there is some good news actually. The good news is they've actually said that they have a profit of 113.7 billion won, and that's around $12 billion or something according to these figures. And that is really good actually. This means that Huawei can put some of these profits back into R&D, and R&D has always remained very strong in Huawei. Every year their R&D spending goes up, and it's been 3 years now since the Trump administration put sanctions on Huawei, and Biden carried on with it obviously, but the company hasn't severely gone down. Their profit margin, you can see with the profit margin, is still very high. And one of the good things that these sanctions have actually done for Huawei is they've learned that they cannot really rely on the US. They have to basically rely on their own back and rely on their own technology, their own people, and they also have to diversify their business. While before their business, obviously they had the 5G networks, but their other main business was smartphones, and they weren't very diversified. So it was easy for America to actually place sanctions on Huawei and completely destroy their smartphone business. They tried to destroy their 5G network business, but unfortunately for them, they couldn't do that because mainly 5G network equipment doesn't really need 5 nanometer chips, so they are able to get the chips that they require for their network business. But for their phones, they need 5 nanometers, so that's a bit of a problem. And the only company who was doing that for them was TSMC. And as you know, TSMC is pretty much a puppet of the United States. Whatever the United States want TSMC to do, they pretty much do. They fall under the Taiwanese government, so obviously they would be anti-Chinese. However, the good news is Huawei has been very, very active in the R&D, and they have been doing a lot of stuff over the years. They have been working on, for example, cars. So what they do is they do smart car components and technologies to automobile companies. Huawei said its smart car business unit now has over 5,000 R&D staff and has developed more than 30 smart car components, as well as teamed up with 300 upstream and downstream automotive supply chain partners. So there is a huge group of people working on these car units, and you can see here said in January that Huawei will challenge the goal of helping car makers sell 300,000 units of cars this year, which could generate annual sales revenue of 100 billion won for the automotive companies that partner with Huawei. So you can see the amount of money that could be generated from EV cars, and there is a huge EV car market in China, and it's only just started. It's just a tip of the iceberg, and I can imagine this becoming 100 billion won business for Huawei in the future. There is other businesses as well. You can see that Huawei's cloud revenue exceeded 20.1 billion won. Marketing year-on-year increase of 34%. It's now the fifth largest player in the global market, and also the R&D is still hitting 100. They're putting 142.7 billion won on R&D every year. So they are the front runners for 6G when that comes out, and hopefully over the next few years they will also find a breakthrough with getting 5 nanometer chips. This is not something that's going to be very easy, but I am sure if any company that can do anything like that would be Huawei, and I'm sure they would be loving to rise to the challenge. And it's not just Huawei focusing on this, it's the whole of China which is focusing on developing 5 nanometer chips. At the moment, China's main chip company SMIC can produce 28 nanometers as well as 14 nanometers, and I believe they're doing testing for 7 nanometers, and even 7 nanometers would be enough for Huawei to use it on their smartphones. And once these 7 nanometers chips are mass produced at a really large scale, Huawei would be back selling their smartphones again and their laptops as well. So in the meantime, before that day comes, Huawei is diversifying their business. They are making money from different avenues, and they are really working heavily on R&D. So I am pretty sure that Huawei will survive. They will be better than ever. Once 6G comes out, Huawei again will be the front runner. And you got its massive market of Russia as well. All of the Western companies have moved out of Russia, and it is turning into a multipolar world. And you can see Huawei going into Russia, doing all of their 5Gs, and as well as all of these other countries as well. So don't forget that only 40 countries, 40, have placed sanctions on Russia. This is the collective West, and these countries, you would know they would follow the United States, whatever they say. So if the United States say sanction this company or sanction this country, I want you to get out, they will do it. They're pretty much run by puppets. But you still got 192 countries in the world. So if you take away 40 countries of that, you still got a majority countries which is not part of the collective West. And Huawei can still focus on those countries. And there is a really big Huawei project going on in the Middle East, in Saudi and Dubai, UAE as well, parts of Africa. And I'm pretty sure that as these countries rise and Southeast Asia rises as well, the ASEAN countries, Huawei still has a lot of potential. And once it is able to mass produce 5 nanometer chips by itself, it would be completely independent of United States sanctions. United States sanctions will not be affecting Huawei or any other Chinese company. So China as well as Huawei are very much working towards that, and I'm pretty sure they will achieve that goal within the next few years. There is a company in Japan which is starting to make semiconductor machines which is able to produce 5 nanometer chips, but it's not using the EUV technology that ASML uses. It uses a technology called NIL, N-I-L, and that is not part of American sanctions. So once these Japanese companies are able to mass produce these machines, they can sell those machines to China because they don't fall under American technology. They are completely independent of EUV and other American technology. But it also obviously depends on whether Japan will listen to its masters, America, as well. So that's the problem. But if Japan can do it, I'm sure China can do it as well. China has got much larger R&D investments in terms of its scientists and its semiconductor um, ecosystem in China. So I'm sure they are working on something, but it's not really released much. I'm sure it's pretty much in secret. And there are rumors that Huawei is working on photonic chips and graphene chips as well. And if they can have a breakthrough in that technology and have an overall ecosystem, I'm pretty sure that, you know, all of these sanctions would be released, because all of this photonic chips and graphene chips would be completely new technology. And, you know, once they get the breakthrough, American companies and especially ASML will have no choice but to sell the EUV machines. But by then it'll be too late, because if China has a breakthrough in these new technologies, EUV machines will be redundant, and there is no point paying billions and billions of dollars for an EUV machine, which is got American parts in it and American technology. China might as well use its own. I'm pretty sure over the next few years they will they will have a breakthrough. Already this year, there is a company called SMEE that has had a breakthrough producing machines that can produce 28 nanometers. So these machines are already out on mass production, and 28 nanometers is a pretty significant feat. And the next step is to produce machines that will produce smaller chips than 28 nanometers, and SMEE is working on producing machines that can produce 14 nanometers and 7 nanometers as well, without using American technology. So China is moving in the right direction. It's still going to take a few years. This is not something you can do in a year or two. And people who still doubt China's ability to do this, I mean, China has, in a few years, in less than 10 years, they have got their own space station, and China is leading the race in the space race at the moment. In the next few years, they're going to have a base in the moon working with Russia. And there's a lot of plans in space that China's doing. And it was only about 10 years ago when NASA said China wasn't allowed to be in the International Space Station because China could not add anything significant, or they were not technologically advanced enough to add anything new to NASA. So that's why China was pretty much banned from the International Space Station, and China said, okay, you know what, we'll do our own. And they've done their own, they've got their own space station. And people have said that China's not going to be able to produce its own jet engines. Again, China's managed to produce its own jet engines. Don't forget, China had a huge military embargo since the 1980s. The West did not sell any military components or weapons to China since the 1980s. So China's built its own military with its own expertise, with no help whatsoever. Well, maybe a little bit of help from Russia, but not significant. Most of it is down to their own hard work and their own technology. And now China's able to produce fifth generation fighter jets, and every weapon America has got, pretty much, and they've got a huge navy now as well. So things are looking up for China. You know, you can count them out if you wish, but I wouldn't really recommend it. This is a huge challenge for China to get to that 5 nanometer chip, and I am pretty confident they will get there. I want to also show you this as well. This is not really shown in the West. This is the Fortune 500. These are the top 500 companies in 2021 in the world. And you can see that there's 3 companies, Chinese companies in the top 10. But however, there is 135 Chinese companies in the top 500, which is way more than the United States. And if you look at 2020, for example, you can see 2020, this was only like just over a year ago. United States was leading with 126, but China had 124. So in a year, from 2020 to 2021, they have surpassed the United States. They've gone from 121 to 135, and that's no mean feat. And by 2022, you can guarantee that number's going to go even higher. So what's the summary? The summary is Huawei is making less money than they did a few years ago. However, their profits are gone higher. And end of the day, it's the profits that count. And Huawei actually is becoming a better company in the long term. They are becoming very much flexible, and it's going to be much harder for United States to sanction Huawei because of their business model and the fact that they have a business now which is very much unsanctionable. The only problem they have is getting the 5 nanometer chips. I'm sure they will achieve that over the next few years. And once they do, they will be completely independent of American sanctions and completely independent of the West. And you can see Huawei growing hugely as a business and even competing with Apple. So do not discount Chinese ingenuity, Chinese determination, and when they put their mind into something, I'm sure they will achieve it. And I think within the next few years, you will see huge breakthroughs in the semiconductor technologies. The Fortune 500 list shows you that the Chinese companies are growing year by year. In 1 year, they have added at least 10-15 companies to the Fortune 500, and every year they are adding more and more. So again, do not discount Chinese determination to be the biggest and the best. And China is moving forward. You can rule them out in your own leisure, but I wouldn't recommend it. So anyway, thanks for listening, and see you in the next video. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.